Hey guys, the Drone Geek here. I started with a Phantom 3 Pro. That was my very first drone, roughly about a year ago. It was the end of February of last year when I picked that up. And then I had gotten rid of it almost, not right away, but almost right away because I had 30 days to return it. And I was right around when the Phantom 4. This guy came out and I picked that guy up, went down to the Apple store, about an hour and a half drive, because when that was released, they were only sold at Apple stores. So, and then I flew that all the way up until I just got this guy now on Friday, the Inspire 2. And I have, for now anyways, I have the X4S camera. I don't have the 5, unfortunately, but that was just getting to be too pricey. If things go well, I can always change in the future and swap that out for a different one. But it's still a pretty substantial upgrade from the 4 in my experience, so it's totally worth it still. Put quite a few flights on here over the weekend. I think just Friday night I only did one, but then Saturday and Sunday was quite a few. Yesterday was like 7 or 8 flights I did just yesterday. So I figured after playing around it for a while and figuring things out, I would give my 2 cents on what I think from going from the Phantom 4 to the Inspire 2. And I mean, obviously it should be a big improvement considering the price. And there is a Phantom 4 Pro as well currently, which would kind of fall in between, but no experience with that. I don't have that. But first thing, range. I've seen videos on the YouTube world complaining about range, saying the range is bad, it's horrible, it's worse than the Phantom. Completely disagree with that. I tend to disagree with a lot of things that I've watched over the years on many subjects, but on the remote, I completely disagree. I guess it depends on how high you're going. If you're only 100, 150 feet in the air, yeah, I wasn't getting that far away because you got to think of the angle that you're at. If you're only 100 feet in the air, your angle's like this, let's say. If you're 200 feet in the air, your angle's like that. So your signal is clearing things more the higher you go. I kind of did some trial and error, and it seemed like if I was about 275 feet and above, I had absolutely zero signal issues at all for as far as I went. Once I started hitting 250, I started getting little lines and flickers on my screen and things like that. But I was like on the other side of like a forest. I mean, it was solid trees for half a mile. So I mean, that's to be pretty normal, I would think. So I mean, once I got a little higher, it was perfect. It was flawless. Last night I went from here to downtown, which is, I think it's roughly about a mile away from here or so. And the Phantom 4, once I got down there, my screen would glitch like frequently. There'd be lines and glitches and just all over on the screen. With this guy, it didn't happen a single time last night. Not one single glitch, nothing. Perfect, signal was full. And it was on the 5.8 gigahertz, which is another advantage when that is only 2.4. So I completely disagree. I think that 5.8 gigahertz is awesome, especially in the city, as long as you got some altitude. Proof right here between the Phantom 4 and the Inspire 2, it's knocking its socks off in my experience. So I could have gone way further. Before I've actually stood on the roof with that drone to even do it too, to see how far I could get. Another thing, flight times. You can argue with this all day, but I've experienced the same thing on my Phantom 4. I think when you're standing and still hovering for the entire battery, I don't think that's an accurate representation of flight time at all, for more than one reason. For one, when you're flying a drone, you typically don't just lift it up in the air and just leave it sit there and not move at all. I mean, maybe you do for some specific scenario, but for 99% of the time you're going to be moving around. And for two, from my experience, I mean, it's not scientific, it's just me and my observations. When you sit and hover in place, the battery drains faster than when you are moving around. So I pretty much can draw a conclusion as that is it's actually consuming more power for it to sit still and be locked in its GPS location than if you're actually moving around. Now, sport mode's an exception. Obviously, it drains faster in there. But this guy, I was hitting 20, 25, 24, 25 minutes, and I still had 20% battery left. So I think I had one that was 23 minutes something, and I was even doing some sport mode flying for a few minutes of that. And again, I mean, that's roughly 20% battery left when I'm coming down. So when they say 27 minutes, I think it's actually probably spot on. Now, if you were to sit still and just hover in place, it probably does drain faster, because I know for a fact it does with my Phantom 4. 100% it does. So I only assume this is the same way, so all those tests that I see where the drone's not moving, throw them out the window, they don't mean nothing. They really don't. That's not even how you fly the drone anyway, so it shouldn't even matter. The batteries. Another thing with the batteries. It's cooler out. It's been like 50, 55 the last 3 days, which is crazy for February up here in Wisconsin. It's like a heat wave coming through. I ain't complaining. But even a couple weeks ago, I did an ice race with the Phantom 4, and it was like mid-30s out, and the batteries were still getting pretty hot in that thing. Now these guys, and it's 55, I think, it's 20 degrees warmer, and these things are barely getting warm. Barely. So, I mean, I don't know what it's going to be like when it's 80, 90 degrees outside, but at least right now, they stay way cooler than the Phantom batteries do. So, I know you're technically not supposed to, but me and a buddy of mine, every time we get done flying our Phantom 3 he had and Phantom 4 for me, we'd put our batteries in the fridge for 15 minutes or so they'd cool down and then charge them, because otherwise they wouldn't charge for a while because they're too warm. So I'm hoping with the batteries on the Inspire here, we won't have to do that. We won't have to do it very long, just because it doesn't seem like they heat up nearly as much. I'm assuming it has something to do with two of them. It's kind of an even current draw from both of them, so they're not heating up as bad. That would be my guess. The prop noise thing. See, hear that one? A little bit there. That one does too. All it does is there's a tiny, 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 tiny bit of play, and I can see the white ones, there's no play. When I saw that, I tried it with my Phantom 4 as well, and guess what? Two of them made the same freaking noise, and it's probably been doing this for the last year that I've had it. It ain't a big deal. There's these little metal tabs in here. All I did was bend them up just a hair, and these ones shut up now. They make no noise. These ones, I guess there's no tabs, but I don't see what the big deal is. It's just because there's a fraction of a millimeter of room in there, and that's all it is. But a lot of people just find anything they can complain about. I mean, I don't see what the big deal is. That's all it is. Now, if you push it down so it can't move at all, there's no movement. I had the exact same thing with my Phantom, and it's probably been that way since day one, for all I know. So I mean, that's I don't see the big deal. That's all that really is about. Landing. This thing is incredibly stable when you're landing it. When this guy comes down, it'll get 2-3 feet off the ground. Legs will come down. I just use auto mode. I've never even done manual yet. And then it'll pause for a couple seconds, do its little ground scanning, and then it'll come down and land. And it lands perfect every single time after time. I guess just the extra footprint and the extra weight compared to the Phantom and its legs. That thing, sometimes you have to be nervous when it lands, because that thing wants to tip over, go woo woo one way or the other. Sometimes it got kind of scary. I don't want that to happen, and the props hit the ground and the thing bounces around if it doesn't shut off. But this guy, super stable. Same thing in the car. The foam case it comes in, I put everything in the case but the drone, and I just put the drone on top of the case. It doesn't budge, it doesn't move, it doesn't slide, it doesn't tip. That guy I pretty much put it upside down because it'll tip right over in the car. The stability when you're sitting it down is a huge plus. I love that on this guy. What else? The camera thing, the 360 camera, I gotta get used to that. I'm still not used to that quite. Using like the Spotlight Pro mode, and I'm like going one way and the camera's still facing the other way, and you kind of, orientation can be kind of tricky. And I'm like, oh crap, where am I going? I'm not used to looking at the FPV camera and swapping between the two. That's still something I gotta learn. That's completely different than the Phantom with just the single fixed camera. But the point of interest does work really well. Works perfect. It works flawless. I did only have one issue with it. It was with a roof on a house because it was solid, the same color, no contrast, no variance at all. So it kind of seemed to have issue with that, and it actually ended up jumping to a neighbor's house too. But on like people, cars, doorways, garage doors, I locked onto it, worked perfect. You could go so far away where the little green box on the screen was like a microscope size almost, and it was still locked on. I was pretty impressed with that. The active track I haven't tried yet, but looking forward to it. I never really used it on the Phantom 4 because it wasn't really that great. It would lose target all the time. So maybe this will work better. For tracking a car or something, I still don't know if I really trust it. I think just using the old-fashioned follow mode and GPS would work better when you can be going around corners and buildings getting away and trees and things. I still think the GPS follow is the way to go for that. It's still got its place. What else? Speed. I guess speed would be the next thing. This thing hauls ass without a question. My Phantom 4, I think they rate that at 45 miles an hour, and maybe it's really close to there. That I've had numerous times, countless times, 50 plus miles an hour out of my Phantom 4. It just depends on the day and the wind, if the wind's pushing you or not. Now if you're going against the wind, your speed drops. If the wind's pushing you, it goes faster. The fastest speed I ever got out of it was 54 point something, which was screaming for that guy. That's hauling ass. This guy, I hit 57 miles an hour without even really trying. Pretty much no wind or nothing. This thing can pretty much just do it any day of the week. So that's awesome. Once it hits, I'd say low 50s, then it definitely, the last few it climbs pretty slow. But I'm excited to see a nice windy day where it got some wind pushing in. I would think this thing could go 65, pushing 70 miles an hour. I mean, if that's 45 and I've gotten pretty much just about 55 out of it, it's another 10 miles an hour with wind. This guy, I think mid 60 should be no problem at all. So I like to chase the boats out on the lake in the summer, and that's awesome. Most of the boats can't go that fast. There's a few, but not many. What else? When the camera is attached, it will not go down, because when I first did it, wasn't thinking. I hit the button 5 times before it goes up and down. It will not go down. And then I tried it again, and it still went, just to verify, to make sure I did push it 5 times. So when your camera is locked in here, it will not go down and smash it on the ground. At least mine doesn't. It didn't have any firmware updates out of the box. It was already all updated. Not a single update besides the batteries, which then you see the inconsistent firmware. I don't know why they don't rename that to say battery. It's the same thing on the Phantom 4. Whenever it said inconsistent firmware found, it always meant it was always updating the battery. So I don't know why they use that terminology. I think if they say battery firmware needs to be updated, I think that would make more sense. But that was another thing I wanted to make sure was good before I went up in the air, and I heard a couple reports of the thing updating in the air and rebooting and crashing. I just have 2 pairs of batteries right now. I will have 3 pairs, 6 total, but they were back ordered for 2, so I'm still waiting on those. The charger, I love the charger. You put all 4 guys in here at once, left and right ones. Yeah, here we go. What it does is it'll charge a pair at a time. It won't charge all 4. It'll charge these 2 get done, it'll charge those 2, or vice versa, whatever. And then when it finishes completely, it'll beep at you, and the beeping will not stop for a long time, I know that, until you actually turn it off. I've think I heard after like 2 hours or something it'll stop, but I never let it go that long. And I believe you can turn that off, but I like it just so I know when they're done. The remote here, I love the new design that they got. It just seems real solid and sturdy. I do use these. Lots of mixed debates on these parabolic reflectors too, but I think they work great. I love them. I always use those. Oh yeah, back to the remote here. I use an iPad Pro, the 9.7 inch version, and with the Phantom 4, that thing, I would probably lose roughly 20% charge per flight through a whole battery. The tablet would drain roughly 20%. With this guy, if you turn, it has the charging setting in there. It has smart and continuous and off. I'm not sure what smart does. I'm assuming it just charges it when the tablet gets really low, because it wasn't charging it for me. But then when I put it on continuous, I could see the little lightning bolt, and it was actually able to sustain the charge level. Like I tried that out yesterday. Pretty much halfway through the day I turned it on, and then through the whole rest of the day I started at like 81%, and I noticed at one time I was at 79, and then I was back to 80 again, and then I was back to 81, so it pretty much sustains it right around where you start at. So that is awesome, because 20% battery per flight, 5 flights and the tablet's dead, so that kind of sucked. I had the little USB bank to plug it into, but then that's downtime trying to plug that thing in. So this, the extra power output is a bingo, that's a win. What else? Obviously there's a huge size difference. I mean, that's obvious. Let's see here. Oh, knocking it off the table. The props on the Phantom 4s are about 9.5 inches. These guys are 15 inches. It goes all the way from the end, just past the center of the second prop. Plus, you got that little gap in between. So I mean, they're massive. They are really hard, or stiff, I guess you'd say, compared to the plastic. I believe there's like carbon reinforcement in here. A lot of carbon fiber going on. Another thing I noticed with this at night, when you got the obstacle avoidance and the landing protection that this thing uses, obviously at night they don't work because it can't really see. It needs a certain amount of light. I did a return home, came right down, straight down, and I noticed the legs were already down. It was already in its landing mode. Instead of coming down and then doing the legs, it already did it. And then when it got down 3 feet off the ground or so, I got one of them slide things on my screen, like when you do an auto takeoff, and it said ensure that the ground is clear, whatever, to land. So it actually prompted me for a confirmation to land before it went down all the way. It got right down here and waited until I hit that slider, and then landed the rest of the way. So I thought that was kind of cool, because obviously it couldn't scan the ground with insufficient light, so instead of just landing, it left it up to me. So that's cool, because again, I had to be careful with the Phantom 4 because you got uneven ground and holes and things like that thing could tip over. I mean, this thing's as stable as can be anyways, but even better, I can definitely make sure that the landing is good, even when it can't see. So that was cool to find that out. The tripod mode for the first time, super stable. I did 2-second exposures. It can definitely do longer than that. I'm probably going to try 3, 4, 5, 6. You know, all I can do is try and see what happens. It's so stable. There's definitely an increase over the P4. But I could say the same thing when I started with the P3 Pro and went to that 4. The 4 was stable. I mean, that's just how technology goes. Every generation gets better and better. But it is crazy stable. I love it. Long exposure on this thing is going to be awesome. There's some more experimenting and seeing what settings come up the best. So tonight I'll probably be doing that again. I think that pretty much covers some of the things I wanted to mention, like the range and the battery life. Yeah. Hopefully you found some of this helpful. Thanks for watching.